How's it going, everybody? In this video we're going to take a look at the steps and procedures to get, well, I shouldn't say procedures, at least the steps that I use to get a domain set up inside of VMware vSphere 5.5. And once we get the domain set up and we get everything joined to the domain, then we'll be able to go in and do in the next video we'll get VMware vCenter installed, vCenter server, and then start working on getting the necessary components in place so that we can start working on growing our data center inside of VMware. So I'm on the domain controller right now, as you can see right here, 2008 DC. These are both, I have two server 2008 boxes configured. So I'm going to do a few things to initially get things up and running. Now, in my experience with doing this, I've done it probably about a half a dozen times in the last week, just so that I know that I can get it working. So in the domain controller, we're going to go to Windows Firewall, and we're actually going to disable it. And we might not be able to do it from here. Yeah. So Start, Control Panel, and then System Security, and then in Firewall. And then we're going to turn Windows Firewall on or off, and we're turning it off because we'll eventually go back to a domain firewall, and that's how we will get our devices into the domain. So we're going to turn that off. We'll let it click over here. Hopefully it hurries up, and there it goes. So we're going to go here. We're going to go Start, Control Panel, and then we're going to go to, again, System and Security, Firewall, and then turn the firewall off. And it says not recommended, but we're in a lab environment. I'm not worried about really being safe. So now we're going to go back to the domain controller, and it does take a second for the consoles to flip. Okay, so there we have it. So now I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to do a couple things on this guy, on the domain controller, that I won't do up here on the member server. So I only have to do one domain controller and one member server. The reason for that is because when I go to install vCenter server and some other devices, I only need to have one domain controller. You need to have a domain configured for vCenter to work. It's got to be able to DNS resolve everything in the domain, especially with vSphere and some of the other factors and features to it. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Start, go to Administrative Tools, and I'm going to go to Server Manager and pull that up, and we're going to go Roles. I'm going to add a role, and we're going to click Next. We're going to click on Active Directory Domain Services. We're going to install .NET Framework 3.5.1. Click Add Required Features and click Next, Next, and Install. I will pause the video while this does that, and when I'm done, I will come back, but it might be pretty quick. Okay, so the domain services have been installed, so we can go ahead and click Close on that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the Start menu, click on Command Prompt, and we're going to type in DC Promo. So we're going to promote this server to become a domain controller. Hit Enter, and then we're going to click on Next. We're going to say that's fine, and we're going to create a new domain in a new forest. Click Next. We're going to the fully qualified domain name, or the FQDN, is going to be whatever. So we're going to name this. We're going to name it Riker, which is my last name. And we're going to click Next. And it's going to see if that name is already in use. And in a moment or so, once it does that, it will come back and move to the next step. Alright, so the next step is going to be what forest function level do you want to have? So I'm going to make it 2008, simply for the fact of if you add 2008, then you'll have every device will be able to run 2008 features. So click Next. That's fine. Examine DNS configuration. and we're going to pause the video while this does this. This usually takes a few minutes. Well, after what seemed to be like 10 minutes, it's only going to be like a few seconds for you. DNS finally worked, and we're going to move forward. Click Next. I will assign it automatically, and then I'll pause the video while this does its thing. Usually it does take... The reason why it's taking so long on this device is because of the fact that I only gave it 2 gigs of RAM. So it's probably maxed out on RAM doing this. So the reason for that is because I've only got 24 on my server, and I want to allocate as much to other devices as I can. So I can do less. Oh, and there it goes. That's fine. That's basically saying that they can't resolve DNS. Click on Next, and then the password is going to be a password that meets the minimum password requirements. And Next, and then it's going to install DNS, and as soon as it's done, I'll be right back. Okay, cool. So now we're at the finishing point, so we're going to click Finish, and we're going to click Restart Now, which is what you need to do anyway. Now that's for this box. So I'm going to break out of this one. I'm going to come over here to this guy. Now we don't really have to do anything with this guy. What we will do here momentarily is when this guy reboots, which I actually wanted to keep this live so you guys can see how fast the virtual machine reboots. It does kind of help when you have 2 quad-core Xeon processors and 24 gigs of RAM on tap in VMware. It does reboot pretty quick. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm actually using VMware Workstation for this install, and I'm running that inside of Server 2008 R2. I've got an actual... I did a bare metal install with Server 2008 R2, and then I installed Workstation on top of it. And then I loaded ESXi into Workstation, and I'm working off of that so that I can... It's less overhead than having a server, than loading ESXi to that, than having something else, and trying to get everything else into play. I find a lot of issues with network, getting network connectivity between a virtual machine and ESXi, and one that's working inside of VMware Workstation. There's some sort of it almost seems like a translation issue or something to that effect, which I don't want to spend time trying to troubleshoot something like that. But I'll pause the video once this boots up. We'll get in there and figure everything out. Alright, so we're back on, and I'm going to attempt to do Control-Alt-Insert, and it doesn't work. So if you ever get this and you can't, if you press Control-Alt-Delete, what will end up happening is it'll do it on your computer. You won't be able to send it here. So if you right-click over here and go down to Guest and go over to Send Control-Alt-Delete, it'll bring this in, and then you can type in your password, whatever it may be, and then in a couple seconds we'll be back online. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and I'm going to create a user in Active Directory, give him all the necessary credentials that he needs. I'm going to add the necessary services in order to get vCenter to work later on, and rename the computer. And I'm going to do this in steps, and then from there I'll also configure DNS to get that working and all that other good stuff. So first things first, let me scroll this over and scroll this down and go interesting. We're going to go to Administrative Tools, and we're going to go to Active Directory Users and Computers, and then we're going to go to Riker.com. We're going to click on the Users tab, and you're going to get this output right here. We're going to actually create a new user, so new user at the bottom, and we're going to type in my first name, my last name, and then the login is going to be rriker@riker.com. And we're going to click Next. I'm going to choose a password that's identical to the administrator password. This doesn't make it an administrator level account. It just gives him the same password. So we're going to click Next and Finish. That creates the user. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this guy. I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to click on Member Of. I'm going to click Add. He's a domain users. That doesn't mean domain admin though. I'm going to click on add, type in admin, and check names, administrators, click OK, and then click apply and click OK. Now what I got to do, that gives my username domain level privileges at the administrator level. So that means I can pretty much do whatever I want. And I'm going to exit out of that. I'm going to go back to Start, Administrative Tools, and then Local Security Policy. And this will take a minute to load. And then we're going to go down to Local Policies, and then User Right Assignments. And I'm going to look for two different ones. I'm going to click on Act as part of the operating system. This is needed for vCenter server. I'm going to click Property, right click, and then Properties. I'm going to go down to Add User or Group, and I'm going to type in Rob and check names. It does pop in, Riker.com, and click OK. Click Apply, click OK. Then I'm going to scroll down to Log On as a Service. Right click, Properties, Add User or Group, and then my name again. Check names. If you check names and nothing pops up or you get some sort of error, that means that there's some sort of validation issue and you need to go back and figure out where you goofed up. So it's pretty simple. If you follow what I just did with the adding the member of, you should be okay. I deal with Active Directory every day for at least a couple hours each day with unlocking users and things like that, and setting things up like that and moving. We have SCCM where I work, System Center Configuration Manager. So when we create a new user or we create a new computer, it goes into a newly created organizational unit, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. And so if we go to Start and then you go Users and Computers, this right here is an OU. So if we were to go right click and go New, if you click up here and go New and then OU, User, I scrolled over. Domain controllers, computers, these are all OU. So you can go in here and you can create a new computer under this, or you can go right click and go New and then Organizational Unit, and that'll create a new OU, and then you're able to put things into the OU. Yes, I'm aware that this guy right here is saying that there's no internet access. So I'm going to have to figure out why that is. So, local area connection, details, 132. Alright, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm going to click Close here. Close this guy out. And we're going to do the same thing. Since that's been done, now we have to go is we have to click over here on this computer. And I'm going to wait for the console to pull up because I want to make sure I have the right IP address. So that one, I believe, should be 131. And as soon as it boots, okay, there it goes. So, I feel like I'm getting an email here. Nope. False alarm. So, now that we've done that, I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to click on this guy. Network and sharing, see what his IP address is. Click on local area connection, details, 131. So, I should be able to go to Start and then Command Prompt, and should be able to ping 192.168.48.132. As long as you can ping between a member and a non-member and a domain controller, and you're on the same subnet, you should be fine. You don't have to be in the same domain in order to ping each other. Just on the same local subnet and the same IP address range. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the domain controller. I just want to verify the IP address. That was the reason for doing that. And I should have, down in a few moments here, I'll be able to enable a remote desktop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down on this one, and I'm going to click Start, and then Administrative Tools, and I'm going to click on DNS. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this, click on this guy. Now, this is me. Listen, I'm 132. Alright, so what I need to do is I need to change my host name, and I need to change the host name of the domain, or the non-domain server. So the server that I will be bringing into the domain, I need to rename him, because when I set this up, we have a static DNS mapping. So this is me. This is the computer I'm on. So I need to change this, restart, and I'll pause the video while I do all this, or I'll show you how to do it. And when we go through, I will save the name, restart, come back in, and I'll just show you the steps to actually get it done. So if I go Start, right click on Computer and go down to Properties, and I go Change Settings, change here, and yes, okay. I can't take it out. A domain controller cannot be taken out of the domain. It has to be demoted and then taken out. So I'm going to type in, this is going to be ESX ADDC. That's what I'm going to name it. That's what it's going to show up as, Active Directory Domain Controller. Click OK. Now that's going to require it may require well, I'm logged in as the admin, so it shouldn't require any type of validation. And I must restart the computer to apply these changes. That's fine. Click Close. Restart now. I'll pause the video while this reboots. When I come back, I'll do the exact same thing for this guy, and then that's when I'll create the DNS settings. Alright, well, our domain controller is now booted back up. I just wanted to get on the non-domain controller. Click on Change Settings, and then change here. I'm not adding it to the domain yet. I could, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to name this. This is going to be our vCenter server, and we're going to click OK. And that's probably going to require a reboot as well. I think all of them do. And yep, click OK, click Close, click Restart now. Then we're going to go back over to the domain controller, which is already booted back up. Well, I think so. Wait for it to do its thing. There it goes. So we're going to right click here, guest, and send Control Delete. And we're going to log on. And it's going to apply its settings, and then here in just a second, since I already know the name of the other computer, I'll be able to go ahead and add its DNS markings into DNS. So we're going to scroll down here, and the nice thing about it is our internet connection came back up, which is a good sign. And we're going to click on Start. We're going to click on DNS, it's right here, and we're going to drill into where we need to go. Momentarily anyway. And notice the name changed. We're going to expand this and expand this. We're going to click on this one. And this one is the same IP. We actually can get rid of this because this is the old name. We're going to go ahead and delete. Yes. We're going to go up here. We're going to add new host. A record is for IPv4. Quad A record is for IPv6. So we're going to click on that. We're going to type in vCenter, and the IP address is going to be 192.168.48.131, and we're going to add host. It's been successfully created, so now we have that. Now what we can do is we can come back over here to this guy. He should be just about rebooted, if not ready to log onto. And there he is. Right click here, send Control Delete. We're going to log in. And we're still not in the domain yet. I'm actually going to do that right now. I wanted to get everything else involved and finished as soon as the initial configuration dialog pops in, which I'm actually not even going to wait for that. I'm going to go right to Start, and then Computer, and then go to Properties. And that's going to bring up System Properties. We're going to click on Change Settings. We're going to go Change here. We're going to click on Domain. We're going to type in Riker.com. Now, if I've done everything correctly, we should be able to log into the domain. Click OK, and fingers crossed. Might take it a minute because it's still in the background booting up. Okay, I did something wrong then. You know what it might be? It might be replication hasn't taken effect yet. That's usually what the problem is when I do it this fast. So I'm going to click cancel out on these guys, and I'm going to pull the start menu up and go to the command prompt, and I'm going to ping it. Ping 192.168.48.132. I can ping it. Now I'm going to ping the DNS to see. Oh, I know why. That's my fault. We're going to click here under Network and Sharing. We're going to go to Change Adapter Settings. We're going to right click on here and go to Properties. And click on this and go to Properties, and we're going to use the following DNS servers. By default, whenever I set up DNS here in my house, I have it set up on my router that any DNS records need to go out to the internet to resolve Google DNS. I also have local DNS, but we're going to use 192.168.48.131 and no, 132, I'm sorry. 132, and we're going to click OK. Click Close, and I'm going to go Start, and then I'm going to type in NS lookup, and there it goes. So default server is unknown. Control C, do the same lookup. It knows where to look for it because I've statically assigned that, but it needs to know how to get to this server right here. So do that in. So you know what I can do? I can't do it right now because of the fact that we're not using group policy or anything like that. So just for kicks and giggles, computer properties, change domain, and Riker.com. And hopefully now, maybe it'll work. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to type in rriker as my username and then the password that I've assigned to it. And then if I've done everything correctly, we should get the simple fact that we had a domain login prompt come up is a good sign. So as soon as it goes ahead and resolves that, welcome to the Riker.com domain. So now we are on a domain. We must restart our computer to do this. We're going to click Close, Restart Now, and that computer is going to restart. When it logs back on, we should be able to log in as whatever we want. So I will leave the recording running for this one just so that I can show you guys it. This is the other. This box should restart a little quicker because it's got a little more RAM and some more CPUs. And usually it comes up pretty quick. Minute and a half, 2 minutes. For a server, that's pretty quick. But then again, there's nothing really running on it. So and hourglass popping up, that's a good sign. And applying computer settings, all normal operations. So if you're not sure when you boot it up for the first time, it's completely okay. And momentarily, and then, okay, there we go. So now, Control Insert, yeah, it doesn't work. We're going to guest, and we're going to send Control Delete. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in. I'm going to switch user. And I'm going to type in rriker, and I'm going to type in my password. And there it goes. So now I'm rriker because I'm a domain admin. I'm able to log in as that. I have a username and password. It all authenticates, so that's a good thing. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So it's funny. I vowed probably a year and a half ago that I would never want to be a VMware or Cisco or Microsoft or Linux guy. I'd never wanted to deal with it. I just wanted to be solely Cisco. I just wanted to work on routers, switches, and firewalls. A year and a half later, I'm working, I make good money as a consultant, and I touch everything. I don't, for the most part, it's a toss-up between Microsoft and Cisco with a little bit of VMware right now. I just actually got my VCA, or VMware Certified Associate, in Data Center Virtualization. So it's a VCA and DCV. Gotta love all these acronyms. So I added that to my repertoire and my resume. So that's kind of cool. So now that we have that situated and everything's working, now this device right here is where we're going to actually install vCenter from. So what I'm going to do is, I can't do a whole lot from here because the fact of this computer is on a totally separate network. I'm going to try to ping the computer that I'm recording you from. So ping 192.168.1.100. Oh, it worked. Wow. Okay. Okay, so ping Riker-PC. Man, I didn't think so. It might hang. Yeah, I didn't think so. There's no DNS record for it. So that's okay. So I'm going to click on Start and go to Computer. I'm going to whack Riker-PC, whack. Yeah, I didn't think so. Side note, since we're right here, if you go and, yeah, that's what I thought. If you're noticing a lot of lag where your mouse doesn't have really good response time, it's probably because there's so much translation between the abstraction layer with VMware that you need to do this. So double clicking on this and installing VMware tools will definitely aid you in that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go whack 192.168.1.100 whack, and then alright, that'll pull up my computer. Riker and then my password. Okay, so now I'm connected to my computer. So now I can go in and bring up whatever tools I need to. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and get daemon tools to install vCenter with, and then as well as actually pull vCenter. I just thought about it. I've gotten everything into the domain, which sometimes, for me at least, that was a hard part. Now that I've figured out how to do it and everything's working, I'm going to stop this video, and then in the next video we'll work on getting things into, we'll get vCenter and vSphere installed and start getting the data centers built. I hope this has been informative for you, and thank you for viewing.